Hi, this is John McEuen, and that's the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I carry him in my pocket now. And we did 90 cities this last year. And this is my first date of the year on the solo front in Woodstock, Vermont.
How did you end up playing with the classical pianist?
Oh, it was a wonderful thing. I'm sitting at home one day and I get this phone call and it's Alpen Hong. And his agent had told me he was going to call. And I said, why? And he laid it out. He said, I'm from the classical world. I've been playing since I was 6. I love the Circle Be Unbroken album. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band I've listened to. I'm 36 or 38 years old, so he's right in the middle of where my 6 kids are, so I can relate to him. And he said he wanted to play with me, wanted me to bring my guitar into the picture, and banjo, mandolin, and fiddle, and see what we could do together. One of my favorite things about playing with Alpen is I can throw anything at him. Like I played this song, Acoustic Traveler, at the show. And now in my solo shows, or when I go out with one of my sons, or 2 of them, or a couple extra musicians, that's always one of the songs that I do. And people really like it, and I'm proud of that because I love playing it. It does get faster. It's one of the best responses I get from a piece of music playing on stage. I can't get the Dirt Band to do it. I tried to work it up with them. It's boring, or whatever. So doing it with Alpen, my gosh, it kills. And it's really fun. Maybe you should use these down here.
Yeah, probably. That's what I do.
That's why we call her a pursuit. Get it out. I got it. I'll take one. Alpen. This is a bluegrass tune. You know. Where this all started for me was in Orange County, California. And I was trying to figure out how to get out. And one night I went to see a group called the Dillards. They're the Darlin family on the Andy Griffith Show, if you ever watched that. They played their own type of bluegrass. And it just took me away. I ran home that night and I took the 5th string off my guitar, the big one, right here, and I put a 1st string on. And then I took a little nail and I drove it in at the 5th fret so I could tune it up high, so I could have strings like a banjo that would go, you know. had that high note on top. I didn't get a banjo for another 6 months. I was playing that fake one I had after messing up my guitar. But I just loved the banjo for some reason. It just appealed to me. And then about 4 years later, a bunch of guys hanging around a music store in Long Beach got together, and we called ourselves the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Still do. When the Dirt Band started, I was just playing banjo guitar, and I'd use the guitar in songs like Candyman. I haven't done that since 1969, probably, but we got to do it. And then along comes Mr. Bojangles. It didn't need the guitar. We already had one, and the banjo didn't seem to fit. There's a mandolin hanging around, so I'd played that on one other song, but it seemed to fit on Bojangles. And dulcimers started showing up, and the lap steel, the little electric lap steel, the other instruments started showing up because, you know, those lead singers that are out there, they just want to play guitar and sing lead. And so I got to play all the other things. I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you in worn out shoes, silver hair and ragged shirt and baggy pants. He did the old soft shoe. Oh, he could jump so high, higher than anybody before or since. And then he'd lightly touch down. I met him in a cell in New Orleans. We were down and out. He looked at me to be the eyes of age. And then he spoke right out. He talked of his life, what a life he'd had. Seemed like he'd been everywhere and done everything. I was a kid in jail for the first time. That's what Jerry just said. Then he said his name, Bojangles, and he danced a lick across the cell. He grabbed his pants for a better stance so he could jump so high. Then he clicked his heels. Right about then he let go a laugh, one you could hear all the way down that cell block. Somebody said, "Who is that crazy old man?" I told him, Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles. And I told him to dance, Alvin, here you go. He danced for folks at minstrel shows and county fairs everywhere he could. Throughout the South, and spoke with tears about all those years that little dog and him. While they traveled about. But one day, that constant companion of his, that little puppy dog, one day he just up and died. They always do that when you don't want them to. You know his name? Come on. Mr. Bojangles, dance. Yeah, I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you And thanks to a certain school and all you people that called in, he danced for all of us. The whole Circle Being Broken album was an amazing thing that had happened. I don't think it could happen today with such a disparate group of people. Iconic people that had no idea they were iconic. The band had been together about 5 years, and then in 1970, we were playing at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. And people were saying as we were setting up, now keep in mind, this is a bunch of young hippies from California with long hair. And people, the students were saying, Earl Scruggs is coming tonight. The Earl Scruggs family is coming tonight. The Scruggses are going to be here. And I'm like, no way, that's going to happen. And sure enough, the whole Scruggs family showed up. Earl, Louise, Gary, Randy, Stevie. And we started getting to know each other. Now by 1971, the following June, Earl was playing a club in Boulder, Colorado called Tulagi's. And I'd been taking him back to the hotel every night, which was quite a thrill for me. And finally, the last night, I got up the nerve. Earl, I was just wondering, it's really been good to see you. Yeah, I was just wondering, you think maybe, could you maybe consider, would you play on an album with the Dirt Band? And he said, I'd be proud to. And that was the first door, the first step. And a week later, Doc Watson was playing the same club. And I told his son Merle what I wanted to do, have Earl record with us. And, oh, Daddy would love to be there, and I'll introduce you. So Merle Watson introduced me to, I was there by myself that night, introduced me to his dad, and I was a little bolder. I was like, Doc, we're making an album with Earl Scruggs and want you to be part of it. He goes, well, if Earl's going to be there picking, I want to pick too. So I put him on the phone with my brother that night. And that night my brother said, after the Doc Watson call, my brother said, I just read that Roy Acuff in an interview said that he'd make real country music with anyone, anywhere. So I'm going to find out. And then we said, maybe we should get Merle Travis. And as a week went by, hey, Earl, do you think you could find some fiddle players to handle? And Earl said, a week later, I found one man, his name's Vassar Clemens. And I said, I didn't know Vassar's name, although I found out years later I must have had him on 10 different albums. I said, can he handle it all, Earl? And Earl just said, he'll do. That's more like, Earl, can Vassar handle all the styles? Oh, he'll do. And you knew what he meant. That was the biggest use of the word do I've ever heard. Because Vassar set the benchmark for fiddling that's still there today. Some people can't do that stuff. He was the one that could do it. And I'll never forget meeting the bass player. We got to Nashville when Earl took my brother and I to the Grand Ole Opry to meet this guy that's playing the bass. Oh, Earl, let's see if I can do it. Oh, Earl, it's good to see you. Yeah, I've been looking forward to meeting these guys. And yeah, I cut my teeth on this music. Looking forward to playing with y'all. And Earl told me a little bit about. And just a minute. He was playing live on the Grand Ole Opry at the time, backing up Ernest Tubb while he's carrying on the conversation. So Junior Husky was in. And Mother Maybelle came into the picture because my brother and I asked Earl and Louise if they could find out if Maybelle would be interested in singing and playing a couple songs. Because they knew the Carters really well, you know. And I knew that Earl and Lester Flatt had made an album called Tribute to the Carter Family. And, well, you just knew that they were close. That took about a day. We got the call, Maybelle Carter's going to be there. It was so easy. And she was just such an angel. Jeff got to sing with Maybelle Carter. Jimmy got to play harmonica with Vassar and Merle Travis. I got to play the banjo with all of them, Earl Scruggs. And just thinking about it makes me feel like I'm 25 years old again, because that's how old I was. And we didn't know if Mr. Acuff was going to be part of it or not. We'd had a meeting with him the previous week, but he hadn't quite said yes. He did let us know how much he did with country music. And that last day of recording, we were waiting to get started on well, let's see, I think it was Maybell's last song. And in walks Mr. Roy Acuff. And he kind of stood there like, what kind of music you boys been recording here? And we played him 4 songs, and he sat there at the mixing board just listening, and he goes, now what kind of music do you call that? And my brother goes, well, it's you know, folky, mountain, traditional Appalachian bluegrass, some of it, but he didn't want to say hillbilly. And Roy just cut him off and said, boy, hell, it ain't nothing but country music. Let's go make some more. And everybody cheered. And that initial unease went away. After we recorded the first song, he liked it, and he went out in the studio balancing the fiddle bow on his nose. So everybody knew that he was comfortable. And putting Jimmy Martin together with Roy Acuff, they hadn't done that themselves. That's what we found out when we were doing the album. Being initially kind of worried about, my God, I'm playing with Roy Acuff, or I'm playing with Merle Travis or Jimmy Martin. But we found out early on that these people were big fans of each other. Oh, Roy, it's sure good to see you. I've always wanted to make a recording with you. Well, now we're going to. Oh, Earl, I've always wanted you to pick with me, and they were such fans of each other. I was standing by my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw that hearse come rolling for to take my mother away. You know it. Will the circle be unbroken? By and by, oh, by and by, there's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Play it out.
An undertaker, please drive slow. You're this lady you are carrying, Lord, I hate to see her go.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Play one out. Will the circle, you know it, be let's hear them sing. We can't hear it. Will the circle
Be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord.
play a solo out? Be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. Hey, what? There's a better home the prouder moments of being in a band was representing America as the first American group to go to Russia in 1977. The Chicago and the Dead and several different groups tried to get that. They got turned down. It was so successful, 28 sold-out shows, created such a buzz. It wasn't nitty-gritty dirt band. It was American music and a group. The Cultural Affairs Department of the United States knew exactly what they were doing. It was so effective that for the next 9 years, it's not my opinion, I've been told this by a lot of people, the next 9 years they wouldn't let an American group in. We had people rushing the stage, we had girls running up on stage bringing flowers, we had people climbing over the walls at the bike track, the 5 shows in Armenia, climbing over and sneaking into the audience. There's already 5,000 people. They were standing up. It was illegal to stand up at a concert or an event in Russia. And everybody in the audience was looking to the right. And we're on stage going, why are they looking? Oh, there's somebody standing up there. It was like they'd make them sit down and then they'd look to the left. It was the slowest tennis match you'd ever seen. And people were doing this. Oh, finally at the end of the show, they were all on their feet and the KGB couldn't stop them. It didn't break into like 1,000 rushing the stage because it was so restricted. It was for them. To stand up was an event. Then towards the end of the tour, the last week was in Moscow. That was weird. You're up there playing. Wow, somebody got up and just ran out. We've only been on 20 minutes. Oh, they just came back. Oh, somebody else just got up and ran out. Oh, they just came back. Somebody else got up and ran out. An hour into the show, that guy got up and ran out again. Oh, it's okay, they just came back. Oh, that guy, people had bought timeshare tickets. Like 30 people had bought a half hour's worth of the show because the tickets were so hard to get. You sit there and watch.
That's amazing.
There was the first night, before we did any shows, first night in Moscow, my buddy, the photographer that I took with us, went to Red Square. We got back walking through the hotel lobby about 1 in the morning. Dinner that night, prior to going to Red Square, the Dirt Band sat in on the equipment of the house band of the Moscow hotel there. Lousy equipment. And very hard to play. Guitar strings broken and tied down here. Drums, cymbals cracked with tape on them. We did a couple of songs. Gary and I come back at 1 in the morning and I can hear this tape recorder go, and then hear this song. Well, the third me and Brown King, by and by, Lord, by and rewinding it, playing it, and then they talk while I looked in the broom closet that was the dressing room, and there's those 5 musicians talking. And the one that spoke English, I said, what's going on here? Does the music sound that bad that are they saying stuff? I said, and he looked at me and he says, we can hear freedom. We hear something that we don't have. We hear in your music, we hear freedom. And we hear the freedom of America. That was what a way to start the tour. We haven't even played yet, really. And that was expressed at every show. And that kind of feeling coming from those people. One of my favorite things to do is to produce other people, because then you don't have to work. You just get a bunch of people that know what to do and put them together and say, okay, go, and then throw out some comments. One of my favorite recent productions, there's two. One is an album with my sons that anybody watching this, please go to the McEwensessions.com and check it out. It's a wonderful record with my 32 and 36-year-old sons, Jonathan and Nathan. One of my top five. And then there's The Garden of Love by Martha Redbone, which is an album that I produced with a wonderful singer. She and I came up with the music for the words of William Blake, the British poet. 200-year-old words that resonate today, and I wanted to set him in a setting that might be justifiably thought that William Blake could have immigrated to America and might have gone to Appalachia and hung out with a banjo player or two, or a guitar player, and his words are now set to music on this album that's been getting great reviews. One of the best reviewed things I've done in a couple of years, other than the McEuen sessions. All along the path of doing this, I've tried to come up with musical sounds that I felt like were mine. Sometimes it was writing a song, sometimes it was arranging a song, an old traditional one or something. But sounds, because I don't feel like I could ever, even back in the day, I'm not going to be one of those hot players. I'm not going to be one of those guys that people go to for fast notes, and I'm not going to be the lead guitar player in the rock band. I got to find something. I feel like I'm a slow writer. But as the years have gone by, I'm very proud of this book of music that I have. I'm talking about my own stuff at this point right now. There's one on the Circled album. There's usually one on each Dirt Band album, one, and sometimes not one. And then I've made my own albums. A lot of them are on Vanguard Records. And early on, one of my quests was to get the 5-string banjo and the mandolin crammed into more people's ears than anyone. Get the banjo on Dirt Band records that we're going to get on the radio. Or Michael Murphy's record, Carolina in the Pines, or doing things that would get it exposure. So that's kind of been the path. I feel like it's about ready to work, too. I'm happy with what's going on, and as far as what I do, I think I'm the best me I've ever been, so that's good. Whew.